Hi, this is Lynn from Madajan Zerbles, and we're doing tonight's Wisdom from Gran in front of the fireplace. I want to talk about cold weather. We've got some record cold weather supposed to be happening this week, according to weather to MSM.com. It's tonight's low is supposed to be in Everett is supposed to be 31. Thursday is supposed to be 26. Friday 26, Saturday 29, and Sunday 33, with a possibility of lowland snow from now until Monday, which is as far as the extended forecast is. It is, if you remember the winter of 2019, we got quite a reasonable amount of snow, and what I recall most about that two different snowstorms is that everybody was writing on Facebook, I don't have any food, what are we going to do? It is we can't get our car out, and we don't have food. And so when I saw the temperatures and I saw the fact that there's the possibility of lowland snow, and I also saw that depending upon which weather forecaster you talk to or listen to, there's a varying amount of how much snow they're expecting. I thought maybe it would be a good idea to talk about winter preparedness today. So I've got it kind of separated into pre-storm prep, then surviving the storm, and then post-storm. What are you going to do post-storm? Now, a lot of the information in here is going to be for areas of the country that get more snow than what we get here in Everett. But my philosophy is always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. And so while some of these things may sound kind of strange, if you are listening to me do this live from a part of the country that gets a whole lot more snow, it's going to make a little bit more sense to you. So the best time, obviously, to prepare for a storm is before it gets here. Then you don't have to run out and get it. And especially if it ends up being whiteout conditions or something, if you're going across the passes, it could be much more difficult to be prepared after the storm starts. So I didn't make the print big enough on this time, so I'm going to take off the glasses so that I can tell you my notes. All right? So what do you need to do to be prepared for the storm? Stock up on food and water. Make sure your emergency food pantry has enough food and water to last your entire family for a minimum of 72 hours. Have a plan on how you're going to cook that food in the event that the power goes out. Now, before I lived this time here in North Everett, I lived up in the hills in Arlington, and if we had a big storm, there would be trees coming down, and we would lose power for as much as a week. And I know this last windstorm that we had, people lost power for multiple days. The food that you have to have in your pantry are foods that you can prepare. It is, and how are you going to prepare it? Now, most everybody has a barbecue, and you certainly can barbecue, but you have to barbecue outside. You don't want to barbecue in the garage or in the house, because that's going to bring in toxic air, which could make you come to a sticky end. So how are you going to prepare that food that you've got? If you've got a gas stove, you're pretty golden. If you've got an electric stove and the power goes out, then you're not so golden. For me, I know if you look back here in the fireplace, there's a crane right here that I right now have a kettle on, and I can put a Dutch oven on there, or I can put the kettle on there, and I and I'm golden. I have a lot of cast iron. There's a cast iron pot back there that I can put in the floor of the fireplace and put coals underneath and coals on top, and I can roast anything. And I have baked bread in this fireplace. I have baked potatoes, and I have baked sweet potatoes. We've gotten sticks out, and we've roasted hot dogs in this one. When we lived in Arlington, we had a wood stove, and anything that I could cook on top of the wood stove. So if I was making soup, even if we did have power, I would put it on the wood stove, because that was how we heated the house mostly, was by wood stove. And it just didn't make sense to pay for the electricity as well as the wood when I could do both on the wood stove, heat the house and make the spaghetti sauce, or the soup, or the stew, or this, pretty much anything. And if I paid real close attention, I could fry and saute on that too. But it's harder to do that on a stove unless you're really used to cooking on wood stove, because you can't. It's not as easy to monitor the heat. So it's easier to go ahead and get those things, get your food burned that way. It is, you want to make sure that you have extra batteries, flashlights, oil lamps. How are you going to see if you don't have electricity? And those are things that you should just kept, kind of in stock. You don't have to have enough for a year, but to have enough for a couple of days in the event the power goes out when we have storms. Because every year, whether it snows or whether it's wind, we generally have areas in the Pacific Northwest that go without power for 3 to 5 days. You want to create a family emergency plan. What if it's a natural disaster and it is not a storm? And what if you're at work and the kids are at school? How are you going to get together? How are you going to contact each other? Those are things that you have to take into mind. I live alone most of the time. I have 2 daughters that live up in north of me, and I have a son that lives south of me. I have a sister that lives in California, where they just had a tsunami warning today because there was a 7.7 earthquake in one of the archipelagos in the ocean. So you need to create a phone tree. Who's going to call who, and who's the main character? So like right now, if something goes bad here, everybody is supposed to call my sister in California, because she is more likely, if we have a natural disaster here, like an earthquake, it's going to be easier to get out of this area, the telephone call out of this area, than it is to call inside. When all of my sisters were alive and my mom and dad were alive, if something happened in Southern California, they were supposed to call me so that I would be the point of contact with as much information as possible. And that is a good plan to have, is to, okay, what are we going to do if something happens? How are we going to manage to get everybody in touch with each other? Prep your home. Take the steps that to make your home as winterproof as possible. This is an insulator for the tap that goes outside of your house that you put your hose on. It's real easy to do. You put this over the handle of the faucet, and then you push the little toggle switch here, and put it up as tight as you can against the house, and this will help your outside water not freeze. This you can get at Lowe's. I've had it for a couple of years. I have a couple of them, and I think it was less than $5, and it's going to cost you a whole lot more than $5 if your pipe bursts. If your plumbing is outside of your house and in an area that's not heated, like underneath your house, you may want to turn on the water if the temperatures drop real low. Now, at one point they were saying that it was supposed to be like 13 degrees, and if it gets to be 13 degrees, then you're going to really want to do that. If it's these degrees that are like 26 and 29, you probably don't need to turn on the faucet and let it drip, because I don't think that's really quite cold enough to freeze your pipes, unless there's a problem that you've had previously. It is, you want to stock up. Know where are your blankets and sleeping bags in the event you lose power. I don't know if you were aware of this, but my furnace died before Thanksgiving this year, and I went about 6 weeks with no heat. My furnace was, and still is, 80 years old, and I had a hard time finding somebody that could repair it. Finally did, and it's nice. But in those 6 weeks, this fireplace was the primary source of my heat. And it was, so we layered our clothes, wore really warm things, and we were blessed with the fact that it wasn't terribly cold outside. And so the, 6 weeks wasn't a bad thing. I will say, though, that in the 4 weeks or so that it's been repaired, this is the first time I've built a fire, and simply because I look at the fire and think, oh, that's a lot of work, but I'm enjoying it tonight. Pay attention to what heat sources you have available to you. Do you have, if there's no power, then you don't have, you can't use space heaters. Now, what you can do is, amazingly enough, if you light enough candles, it will warm the room up. And so if you've got a lot of candles, that will help. You want to make sure that you, without power, you want to close all the rooms off that you don't need to have open. This house actually is pretty well insulated in some areas, and it isn't. So we slept in our bedrooms even though there was no heat at night, and we were fine in terms of being warm. Now, I like to sleep cold, and so it was, for me in particular, it wasn't bad. My son was here during that 6 weeks without power. It is, look at, if you have a fireplace, do you have some firewood to help with you keeping the house warm? If you have a pellet stove, do you have pellets? I think, though, with the pellet stove, you have to have electricity because you've got an auger that feeds the fire that is electric. So other things that you want to have is like a hand crank or solar-powered radio. Or if you've got an old school radio that's a transistor radio and has batteries, that's going to work too. But if the power goes out and we don't have Facebook and we don't have television, it's going to have to be a radio that is going to give you the news of exactly what's happening. So I've got two. I've got one real small compact one, and I've got one that's a little bit bigger. This one that's a little bit bigger is a solar radio. This one is a hand crank. There's a picture on the back of how you crank it. And as you can see, I've never used them. Because most of the time here in North Everett, we don't lose power very often. The other thing that I have, which is actually pretty important, is a solar-powered telephone charger. It looks like this. and it will power your cell phone, your tablet, whatever it is that you need. Now, the thing that you need to know about this is while it does use solar power, the first time you charge it, you have to charge it with electricity, and you can like charge it from your computer or something of that nature. But don't just buy something like this and then think, okay, now we're covered and we don't have to worry about it, because if the power goes out and if you haven't charged it the first time with the electricity, it's not going to do you any good at all. So that's just, you know, something else to give some thought to, is make sure you know how this stuff works, that you read the directions before, in the event there is some electricity that is needed before it is fully functional. Okay, so keep a supply of snow melt or rock salt to put on your stairs and your driveway. Because here in Washington, you are responsible for having your sidewalks and your driveway cleared. And if somebody gets hurt because they slipped on the sidewalk on the ice, they can make you pay for their injuries. So if you've got the salt, rock, or the ice melt out there on the sidewalks, then it's going to go better for you. Kitty litter and sand works really good if your car gets stuck in the snow. And so when we get to snowy weather, you find in my car that I have a shovel, I have some food, I have some kitty litter that I put in there. That I've got blankets like these astronaut blankets. Remember these little silver ones? You can get these, again, really cheap. And so I ended up getting like a case of them at one time. And funny story that one of my granddaughters will tell you is we went out camping some years ago, and the whole family camping trip. And what we found was that my rain fly from my tent was missing. Happened to find it 3 years later, but in the meantime, it was missing, and it started to rain. And so it was like a little bit of a panic. Oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, I pulled one of these Mylar blankets out, and I used it as a rain fly. And I happened to have some clothespins that I was able to use to keep it attached to the to my tent, along with some duct tape. And they laughed and laughed, and it says, "It looks like, Grandma, you're afraid of the aliens, and so you put a tinfoil hat on your tent." And we still refer to that tinfoil hat on a tent. But the fact that I had this in my car meant the rain didn't come into my tent. And so it's sometimes you're going to have to be like MacGyver and figure out, okay, what do I have in my car that is going to help me get through whatever it is that I'm going through right now. There are some apps that you can download onto your telephone that will give you weather and emergency procedures. And so I looked for some, and here are some that are free, okay? These all work for both iOS, which I believe are Apple products, and Android products. The Weather Channel has a downloadable app, Emergency Alert, which are alerts from the Red Cross for any natural disasters. Then there's WeatherBug, there's Air Visual, Air Quality, and that, remember when we had the fires and we had such bad air quality last summer? That downloads straight to your telephone. Yahoo Weather and AccuWeather, those are things that, as long as you can keep your phone charged, you can download that information as well. If you have pets, when it's 26 degrees, they're going to be cold, and you want to bring them, even if they have a dog house or a cat house, bring them inside, and don't let them get out there and freeze. If you in your coat and your snowsuit are going to be cold outside, then they in their fur coats are going to be cold. And the water that they'll be drinking will be frozen solid. Bring them in and make sure you take care of your fur babies. That's very important. Winterize your car. Top off all your fluids. If it's snowing, one of the things that will help add weight to your car is gas in your gas tank. And then it also gets you where you need to go. So actually last night I went and filled my tank, and I am trying right now to keep a half a tank of gas in my car at all times. So when I hit the half tank, I go and get and refill it. That's hard for me because I'm not that disciplined, but I'm really working on that so that I don't ever get into a point of, do I have enough gas to get back to the gas station, which I've done on occasion. If you are driving across the mountains, make sure you have chains in your car, because there are times that you will need it. Now the other thing, and this is kind of a cool little thing, this is a soup can. Now right now this soup can has soup in it. I've got this in my car, but it was cold enough I didn't want to root around in my car, and it was easier to just get it off the pantry. If you take a soup can and you lay it down like this, and then you take a votive candle and you put it inside the soup can and you light it, this one candle and can will give you enough heat in your car that if you are stuck in your car in the snow, you will not freeze. You're going to need to crack the window a little bit so that you do get fresh air and you're not burning up all the oxygen, but you won't freeze. So especially if you have the candle and a Mylar blanket or a sleeping bag or something in there, you will survive to be rescued. So, I mean, that's a real easy hack and real easy fix to do. Stay in your car. Don't try to get rescued, because if you try to get rescued, you're going to end up getting hypothermia and having trouble. It is, if you can do it, shovel your sidewalks while it's snowing. Don't wait until it gets hard and icy. This is the voice of experience. I did that the other day, and not the other day, 2019. I waited until it was hard and icy, and then I went out and shoveled. And if you are not in shape, that can cause a heart attack. You want to get it when the snow is as lightweight as possible. It is, and watch if you're out there in heavy snow, watch for frostbite. If your skin is exposed to extreme cold for any significant amount of time, frostbite can set in. And it is, that's when it does, it is accompanied usually by a tingling of skin, numbness, discoloration of your skin, graying or yellowing, and or skin that feels very waxy or strangely firm. Make sure that you're dressed properly when you go out. And I forgot to bring, I was going to show you something that I had, and so I'll just tell you about it right now. But start out with long underwear or tights, and then layer out until you look like the little boy in the Christmas Story that, was so fully dressed that he could hardly walk. You want to make sure that the outside layer of your clothes is waterproof. Now, whether that's wool or whether it is vinyl, you want to keep the water away from your skin as much as possible, because if you get wet, you're going to get cold. Make sure you have a hat and you have gloves. And I would always carry in my car, if I was driving anywhere in the snow, a couple of extra pairs of socks so that your socks will get dry. You can have, dried feet instead of cold, wet, frozen feet. The other thing that you can get, and I just bought new ones because I really didn't like the ones that I had, you can get crampons. And crampons are, it's kind of like cleats, but they're removable. So you put them on your boots or on your snow boots or your hiking boots, and you put them on the bottom, and they have little metal spikes that help you walk in the snow and the ice so that you don't fall. So if falling is a concern, and for me it is a concern, because if I fall right now, I'm probably toast. I have those. I've got a pair that I bought on, like, as seen on TV, and they were very cheap, and they were worth every penny I paid for them. I just bought a new set of crampons today, and they're supposed to be delivered tomorrow. So I will take a picture of them so you can see what they look like, and put them on this post. But if you have to go out and walk, and sometimes it's just even you're getting out because you've got cabin fever, if you are mature, you want to put on those crampons, because that's going to help you stay upright and not slide. Okay, be aware. I mean, it's always really nice to open up your windows, your drapes, and see the snow, and have a fire in your fireplace, and drink like hot chocolate with Baileys in it. And that's a really great idea if you're going to stay inside. Alcohol dehydrates you, and so it then helps you not understand what the true temperature of your body is, and which can lead to hypothermia and can lead to additional trouble. Well, we're running late again. Keep hydrated, so because that in and of itself is going to help you keep your body running a little bit better. After the storm, look around and give yourself a grade. How did you do? Did you go well? Did you need anything? Were you missing anything? What did you wish that you had that you didn't? And then replenish anything that you used. So if you used batteries in your flashlights, make sure you go get new batteries so that you can replenish them. If you used your charcoal because you were barbecuing, go get new charcoal and replace that, so that you're ready for the event. The weather people here in the state of Washington don't always have a real good track record, and they can always be surprised, and better to be prepared than surprised. That's what I've got for you. So hopefully there was some good information in there. Hopefully, I'm kind of hoping it snows, to be totally honest with you. I would love to have 2019 again, and the ability to have a little bit of a snow day vacation, and because I really enjoy the snow, and through the years we've been getting less and less snow, so it'd be a whole lot fun to have more of it. Stay safe, stay warm, and tomorrow is the new moon. If you are joining me for that, we'll be doing it at 6 o'clock, as per usual. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining me. Bye.